Hello and welcome back to this brief series on the spiritual disciplines. Again, the aim of this series is simply to make your time of isolation be more spiritually productive so that when you leave the time of isolation, you will be better equipped to be able to deal with the many challenges that lay ahead. Anyway, the discipline I want to focus on today is the spiritual discipline of journaling. Why journaling? Well, frankly, I cannot think of a better time to record the events of the day and really your thoughts that surround it. And really, that's all journaling is. It's just taking a journal and writing down the events of the day and kind of the thoughts that surround those particular events. But really, spiritual journaling is a little bit different. It kind of raises the bar on journaling a little bit because it's not simply about just recording the events of the day or even your initial thoughts surrounding those events, but really what it is doing it in such a way that it promotes mental, emotional, and spiritual health, particularly spiritual growth. There are a lot of benefits to journaling that we know of. For one, it creates space to record some of the significant events of the day, to create some sort of a historical record of what was going on, not only for you, but for future generations. And some of you may be thinking, well, Chuck, that's great, but there's a lot of news stories out there now. In fact, there's probably thousands of news stories related to COVID-19, stories that are going to be circulating throughout the internet for years. So I really don't need to write the news or record the news again. Well, really, the value in journaling is not duplicating the news in your own personal journey or your own personal journal. What it is, it's about, again, recording your own unique perspective on those events. You see, again, we were all part of this larger story. We were all connected to this larger COVID-19 story. But within that larger story are all these sub-stories, these all unique stories. We each, again, have our own unique perspective, our own unique lens that we're viewing these larger events. Some people are viewing COVID-19 through the lens of YouTube or Netflix. Others are viewing it through the lens of the workplace or the unemployment line, while still others are kind of viewing it from the perspective of relationships. The gatherings that have been canceled, the weddings that have been canceled, the inability to go to sporting events, that sort of thing. While still others are viewing it from the lens of politics, political lens. But sadly, there's a number of people, the people that are working on the front lines in the hospital, that are viewing it from the lens of sickness and even death. My point being, again, is that there's this larger COVID-19 story that we're all part of, but underneath that is a bunch of little bitty stories, a bunch of unique stories that, again, that we all experience in our own way that allows us to view that larger story from our own particular lens. And the best person to record that story is not the news media, but the best person to record that story is you. And the best way to record it is through journaling. But beyond simply recording your story, beyond using journaling to record your story, really journaling is kind of a great tool. It's a great tool to record your particular mental or emotional or spiritual response to all those particular events, the events of the day. And again, people are responding to these events in a wide variety of different ways. We know that some people, are just kind of responding like as nothing's really happened. Everything pretty much stays the same. Where we have other people, that most people are kind of just saying, man, this is tough. It's really taken an emotional and a mental toll on me. It's contributing to a lot of stress. And the more this pandemic goes on, the more it sticks around, the higher the stress level. And that stress is being manifested in a variety of ways, including fear, including anxiety, surrounding the sickness, the possibility of getting the sickness, the possibility of loved one getting the sickness, possible of losing our income or losing our retirement savings. It's manifests itself in loss of sleep, sleepless nights. It's manifests itself in depression, and also just manifests itself in an increase in drinking and doing drugs. But the value, again, of journaling is that it kind of provides a release valve, so to speak. It kind of gives us an opportunity to blow off steam in a healthy way before it manifests itself in one of those negative type responses, or possibly even something as seemingly innocent as logging a negative comment on Facebook. Unfortunately, those comments tend up causing a lot more stress to other people that really don't need more stress in their lives. Anyway, again, journaling definitely has some health benefits. In fact, I was reading an article about it that people who write during extremely stressful times, it kind of provides a boost to their mental and their emotional, and in some cases even their physical health. Especially for guys who, like me, who sometimes tend to keep our emotions bottled in a little bit too long. But beyond the mental and the emotional benefits of journaling, it has a spiritual benefit to it because journaling allows you to interact directly with God, and that's a great thing. In fact, there's a biblical precedent for journaling. There's a biblical precedent that is found in the well-known book of Psalms. You know, the Psalms are the writings are really that act as the journal of King David. You know, King David used the Psalms to be able to kind of let off steam about a particular stressful situation that he was having in, that he might be involved in. You know, the fears and the anxiety and the worries and the angers that he was dealing with. He was able to kind of let go and to let go and talk to God about these things. In fact, he would even cry out to God. I was reading in Psalm 44 that basically he was even, at one point, he accused God of kind of sleeping on the job. You know, as I was reading it this morning, in Psalm 44, I'd like to read it to you real quickly here. It says, he writes, "Awake, Lord, why do you sleep?" He says, "Rouse yourself. Do not reject us forever. Why do you hide yourself and forget our misery and oppression? We are brought down to the dust. Our bodies cling to the ground." I mean, we can relate to that, especially during COVID-19. You know, but what's nice again about the Psalms is that, you know, in the Psalms we see the raw and the real David. And when we journal, we're able to kind of reveal the raw and real selves, you know, to God. We don't have to worry about it. We can write whatever we want. And so again, there's a lot of value, a lot of benefit to journaling, especially spiritual journaling. But some of you may have the question is, you know, okay, so how do I do it? And the simple answer is, you know, any way you want, because there's not a lot of rules when it comes to journaling. You know, there are a few guidelines. For one, you have to decide, you know, what type of journal you're going to use. You know, you may decide I'm going to use a paper journal, you know, or a notebook, or possibly one of those nice leather-bound journals. That's good. Other people might say, you know what, I don't like to write. I'm just a lousy handwriter, so I like to use a computerized journal. And that's fine, because there's a lot of computerized journals online for little or no cost. And so again, find the medium that works for you. Another question somebody may ask, well, what would I ever write in a journal? How do I know what to write? And again, it's pretty much whatever you want to write. You know, a good place to start is just simply recording the events of the day. You know, recording the events of the day, such as, you know, social distancing, or somebody you met at the grocery store, or an experience you had driving around, or whatever it was. Record it, and then record your response to it. You know, how did you respond to this, in a mentally respond, or emotionally respond, or spiritually respond to this particular event? You know, some people just might want to record some of the statistics. Use that as a launching point, you know, for your journal entry. In fact, that's kind of what I do. I've been been tracking some of the daily statistics, you know, at the top. Basically, the number of cases, the number of deaths, and the number of recoveries. You know, some may think, well, that's kind of morbid, Chuck, but to me, it's a nice historical record. And again, it does provide a nice launching point for my journal entry for the day. Well, others may say, you know what, maybe I can start by just recording the scripture that's come to me during my devotional time, maybe a passage that really spoke to me, and then just writing it down and just kind of just jogging or writing down an application for that. That's kind of what I did with Psalm 44. Others might want to get really creative and begin to think about, write about a future entry, or what the future may look like. You know, after the future following, in other words, following COVID-19. In fact, there was a book that was written called Spiritual Journaling, and that's where the idea came to me, is that, you know, he suggests is that some people would basically, again, write about the future. In other words, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years out, you know, record or write a journal entry of what your ideal future would be. And that's particularly applicable to this season of life. And when you write about the future ideal, you don't write about, again, from a negative perspective. You write from a perspective of hope. And that becomes a source of encouragement to your very soul. Anyway, other people would say, other questions they might have is like, you know, how often do I write? And how much do I write? And again, a couple good questions as far as how often. You know, it could be a few days, or every 3 days or so, and then skip a day. Some people write for a week and then they put the pen down and don't pick it up again for a year. That's okay too, but I would suggest that, especially when you're starting out, try to be consistent with your writing. Try to write it up on a regular basis, while at the same time, not setting your standards too high. In other words, just simply set a goal of maybe writing once a week, and then later on, next week you might add three days that you write, 3 or 4 days, and then just continue to increase from there until possibly you get up even to a week every day. As far as how much you should write, again, it's totally up to you. You can write 10 pages if you want. You can write 3 sentences. It really doesn't matter. Again, the key simply is to be consistent. The key is consistency. Anyway, again, we are at a very unique time in history. We're all connected to this unique story called COVID-19. But we all have our own sub-stories that relate to how this particular virus is impacting us at an individual level. And so journaling, again, does a great job of preserving the historical facts of the story. But not only that, it preserves our response. It preserves our mental, emotional, and spiritual response to that particular story. So anyway, if you're somebody who's already in the habit of writing, of journaling, I just say keep doing it. If for some reason you're not, I would just encourage you to just try it. And really, if you need a little bit of a kickstart to do it, I'm going to be putting together an online workshop on spiritual journaling, hopefully in the next few weeks or so. And if you think you might be interested in that, just shoot me a message below, or an instant message or something, so let me know that you would be willing to attend something like that. Again, anyway, that's pretty much all I have for now. So basically what I would suggest and what I encourage you to do is just continue to hang in there. Wash your hands, keep your social distancing, now wear your mask, but most of all, just do not lose heart. Do not lose heart, because again, we serve a great God who will ensure that we will survive this coronavirus. And with the help of the spiritual disciplines, we will not only survive, but we will thrive. We will walk away from this virus, this pandemic, these years, again, simply as better people for having lived through it. Again, that's all I have for now. Until next time, you take care. Goodbye.